Our reading today is from the theologian Paul Tillich. On just one perspective of the concept of grace for our consideration, please think about your definition of grace and maybe a personal example. And in a moment after the reading, if you would like, I'll ask each of you to share your thoughts with your neighbor. Paul Tillich tells us, grace strikes us when year after year the longed-for perfection of life does not appear. When the old compulsions reign within us, as they have for decades. When despair destroys joy or courage. Sometimes at that moment, a wave of light breaks into our darkness, as though it was a voice saying, "You are accepted. You are accepted, accepted by that which is greater than you, the name of which you do not know. Do not ask for the name now. Perhaps you will find it later. Do not try anything new now. Perhaps later you will do much. Do not seek for anything. Do not perform anything. Do not intend anything. Simply accept the fact that you are accepted." So please join with a neighbor or two of an example of grace that you've experienced and how you define that. We'll take a moment to do that. You could stay right around your little grouping. Ken? All right, so we've got some meaning of grace here. Grace. Before I begin, I want to thank the Reverend Amy DeBeck from the Unitarian Universalist Church of Castine, Maine, for resources she gave me for this sermon. What an incredible gift the universe has given us. Life. We didn't earn it. We didn't work for it. We don't have to pay for it. We're simply here. Some might call that grace. Like our birth from our own mothers, the universe birthed the earth. The earth birthed all nature, air, water, creatures. And out of the evolutionary birthing came humanity. Nothing was earned. Nothing was paid for. It was a process that wasn't an easy process. Had difficulties, challenges, reverses. But through that, grace shone through. Now, some talk about an intelligent creator. You know the parable about the clockmaker, that behind the creation of the universe must be an intelligence some people call God, because this creation couldn't possibly have come out of complete chaos. I believe there's some truth to that, but with a caveat. For me, the clockmaker is a metaphor for an impersonal force that we call the force of the universe. We understand through the chaos theory that underlying perceived chaos are actual patterns of order. There is order in disorder. The universe may appear to be an ongoing cataclysmic chaos with fiery explosions of birth, life, and death of planets and stars. But a deeper look has actually shown a pattern of consistent growth and expansion. For Unitarian Universalists, the concept of grace is a paradox. Grace is one of those wounded words in our spirituality. It was historically misused by some to cause spiritual harm. The Calvinist understanding of grace that inspired heretical theological stances of early Unitarians and Universalists associated with grace with the doctrine of Christian theology that teaches that God's saving grace is applied to those he has determined to save, also called the elect. Calvinism emphasized God's predetermination of grace. So where does that place those who are not part of the predetermined elect? That would be you. Outside of grace, of course. And who do you think also fell outside of grace? Africans, Indians from India, Native Americans, any non-Christians, women who wanted basic human rights, like the right to vote, anyone in the LGBTQ community. A lot of people fell outside of grace, right? Well, in confronting this narrow-minded and intolerant theory of grace, many Christians, along with people of other religions and secular humanists, have recaptured the important essence of grace as a true gift to all of humanity from the universe itself. We've developed a more universal perspective of grace that I think is more meaningful to us, but also to the world, especially at a time when people in power want to divide us and want to tell us that some people are more graced than others. So from a Unitarian Universalist perspective, grace is a feeling of being accepted, of having a place in the universe, even if that place is small. It can be understood as a sense of belonging and acceptance, regardless of whether it comes from a personal or impersonal source. Grace can also be seen as a gift of an unexpected rescue. People have graced moments, providing solace from suffering and existential despair. As Amy DeBeck asked in her sermon that she did at the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Castine, Maine, She asked, what can grace mean in the shadow of fear and destruction? What can grace mean within a liberal religious community like ours, where reason and science temper our understanding of that which we call holy? Is it not present when we sense that there is a space or a place where we are accepted and where we belong? So say you're in a car accident and one person lives, comes out without a scratch, and the other person dies. Where is grace in this moment? The Buddhist might tell us that grace is in every moment and every occasion. The good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent are all a series of grace simply given by the universe to us. The Stoic might say grace is in the hands of the cards that life has dealt us. Grace may be in the moment of life, and it may be in the moment of death. For a Stoic, it's our attitude that determines whether we see that moment as disaster or as grace. That is the paradox. What does grace mean this week for the 4,000 or so transgender troops that just lost their right to stay in the military? Their case is ongoing, but they can get kicked out before the case is settled. What does grace mean to them when the Secretary of Defense insults and dehumanizes them? What does grace say when thousands of refugees that may lose their 2-year visas by the end of this month? Is grace a personal thing? I think it is for those folks. Is it a cosmic idea? I think it is for all of us. Do we just say that for some people grace is passing them by during this moment of time? Do we say, oh, but they will look back one day and they will say that this experience was a graced moment in their life? I'm not sure they feel that way right now. That's easy to say by someone who just didn't get kicked out of the military, lose their job, or lose their legal status through arbitrary decrees. Do we just say they have to deal with the consequences? Do we understand that grace is not always benevolent? I think it's especially hard, but so important to understand that grace, particularly during difficult times, even to the extreme of resulting in catastrophe or death, needs to be understood. In fact, suffering and death cannot be avoided. And the concept of grace may be most valuable during these moments in our lives. As Amy DeBeck reminds us, amidst all the death, destruction, and horror that pervades and often dominates our world, grace remains. Quote, "There but the grace of God go I," is a variant of what John Bradford, a religious prisoner in the Tower of London, said when he saw a group of fellow prisoners being led out of the tower to their execution. He felt that way even though he too was eventually led to his execution. I might say, there but the grace of the universe go I. In my life, I've experienced many moments that I would feel and call grace. Some instances may be small, superficial, and perhaps not grace at all, but just the luck of the moment. Missing being in an accident on the highway by sheer luck may be more of a coincidence than grace. For example, is it purely coincidence that a refugee family from Afghanistan who had to hide for 2 years because they were not able to make it to the airport in time to be evacuated, who lost a brother to the Taliban but were able to escape, ended up in Jacksonville and became members of our church? Perhaps that's a coincidence, or lots of coincidences. But what are the moments of grace on this journey? Moments of assistance they received, compassion, and even the hand of bureaucracy that helped them to get here. And then we in this community have been graced by their presence. We didn't earn it. It's a gift. And as Jawad spoke to us last week, it's a gift that he and his family want to freely give to us. Amy DeBeck is a cancer survivor, and she said she found grace in the beauty of a sunrise while in the midst of chemotherapy. She goes on to say, "There have been thousands of times that I have been stopped in my tracks by breathtaking views of a marvelous panorama or a tiny intricate flower or insect. There have been moments of human warmth, compassion, or intimacy that were so powerful I was left speechless. But these moments of grace weren't an experience of grace in the traditional way that I had expected it and understood it to be." As you reflected with your neighbor, it is not necessarily the moment of tragedy or difficulty that is grace, but it's what happens around it. What surrounds us every day is grace. And as the author Mark Nepo calls it, the sea of grace that flows steadily beneath the turmoil of events. And I love envisioning that picture. Are we able to really see a sea of grace flowing steadily beneath our lives? I think that is the spiritual leap that we can make as Unitarian Universalists, and really as anyone, to understand, however we understand it, the sea of grace underneath us. Loyal Rue, a religious naturalist theologian, wrote in the 1940s, quote, "The epic of evolution counts out for us a pageant of blessings that stupefies the imagination. Consider the astonishing improbability of a universe suitable for human habitation." We don't know of any other place besides Earth right now. The chaotic events of the premortal flaring forth left our universe with a slight excess of particles over antiparticles on the Earth. If this delicate imbalance had varied by a factor as small as 1 part in a billion, then we would not be here. That is grace. This scientific way of explaining grace makes sense to me. With a religious naturalist concept of grace, you don't need to believe in a personal creator controlling the balance, although many of us find it helpful to do that, and that is okay. Rue said, "Just imagine if things had developed here on Earth with the slightest differences in the balance of particles over antiparticles. What would exist today would probably be remarkably beautiful. But we probably wouldn't be here to reflect on that beauty and wonder of this earth we call home." So, the grace we talked about and the grace we experienced, the example that I used was music. And Aaron knows this, and Matt, and Cece, and Ken, and Hope, and many others here, that music is a gift to me that just transcends me. I don't have to do anything. I just listen, and it takes me to another space. And it's a spiritual space because it's transcendent to me, connects me to them, and connects me to something deeper inside of me. Every morning I make a point to look up at the sky. And I do that for 2 reasons. Because I have a big ego, and I need to remember that I am just this big in the universe. Even when I feel like I'm the ant, I can lift 10 pounds my weight, 10 times my weight. But more than that, it helps me to understand that I am part of a bigger picture, and that's grace. You know the parable of the construction worker, and he's making bricks. And someone asks him, "What are you doing?" "I'm making bricks." And then he goes to the carpenter who's cutting wood. He goes, "What are you doing?" "I'm cutting wood." And then he goes to the window maker. He says, "What are you doing?" "I'm making windows." And he goes up to one of the other construction workers and he says, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm building a cathedral." That's the graced moment. Understanding the bigger picture of why we're here. Yes, we're cooking dinner. Yes, we're taking care of a loved one. Yes, we're mothering people. But what we're doing is we're creating a community and a world of love and justice. And that's the graced moment that we're allowed to be in. As Paul Tillich said, you are accepted. You are accepted by which is greater than you, in the name that you do not know. So as we simply accept the fact that we are accepted, we understand in the world that not everybody is accepted. And we will continue to work hard here to strive and to fight that everybody is accepted, is honored, and is not dehumanized. Now, what I would like us to do, as we understand on Mother's Day, that grace is each moment that we have been gifted to exist in this incredible universe, even in difficult times. As Unitarian Universalists, we know that grace is for all, and that none fall out of grace. We will not accept the words or actions of those in power when they try to diminish grace, when they try to take away acceptance, separate or divide us. We understand that within grace can be a giver and receiver, and that both being the person receiving grace and the person giving grace are blessings. This is what we do as Unitarian Universalists here in Jacksonville, in Fernandina Beach, in Nassau County, and throughout our world. Not because we have to, not because we are perfect, but simply because we can. Thank you.